What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Powered by Primus. And in today's video, we're going to be going over Predaking and doing a deck profile on the list that I am running. Right now, I'm having an absolute blast running this deck. It is a lot of fun, and it is really competitive, so let's get into the build. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about when it comes to the characters is that there actually is a really big learning curve to these characters. Now, as much as it would seem it's pretty simple, as you just turn sideways and attack your opponent for 1,000,000, there are actually some intricate things that do go on with this deck. Now, the one thing specifically that I mean by this is that it will depend on what kind of deck that you're going up against. There are a lot of really weird interactions here, so let's get into it. Now, the first one is Taurox. Taurox, the enemies can't be repaired, is kind of a cool thing, but it really won't come into play a whole lot. His other ability is where you're really going to want to be at with it. It does allow you to, when you switch to that mode, you get to plan one, and then you get to also draw a card, drawing a card first, obviously, and then planning. The benefit behind this is it does let you draw an additional card, which is always really nice, but then planning lets you put a card back on top of your deck. Sometimes if there's something you're not wanting to really use in your hand, such as double orange battle icons, which we'll get into later on, so that's where Taurox is going to be able to get a lot of damage in. Sometimes I use Taurox in turn 1 as far as flipping over to that, especially if I have a double orange in my opening hand, and I'm trying to get maximum damage onto a character that I'm trying to target first. Benefit behind that is that he is one of your heavier hitters in the list, especially being able to plan and putting that double orange on top and going after an untapped character first, because then Razor Claw is going to be able to clean that up. We'll get to that here in just a second. Now, when it comes over here to Headstrong, it's really iffy because he does have Brave while he's in that mode, which does have 3 armor as well. He's definitely going to have the most armor that we're going to have out of all of our characters. We are not running any blues in this list, so it is really nice for him to be able to have that 3 armor, although he does only have 8 life, which technically if you look at a couple others who have 9 and such, they are going to be able to have more health, but this guy is going to be able to be your main focus for your opponent because of that Brave. Coming into Predaking Rampage, the benefit behind him is that when you convert over to him, this other side just says when an enemy is KO'd, you get to repair 1 damage from each of your Predacons. Now, the first thing to know about that is it does not say that when this character attacks and KOs a character or one of your other Predacons attacks. It is just saying that when an enemy is KO'd. So even if you're to play something such as a Zap, which we are not running on the list, but if you are running that in your list, then this is going to be really good because no matter what KOs that character, even a one shall stand, or even if your opponent plays a one shall stand, then this is going to be able to heal all of your other characters for 1. Coming over here to Dive Bomb's ability, it says that when you flip to this mode that your opponent reveals a card from their hand at random, and if it's an action, then they have to scrap that action. The first thing about that is that your opponent does choose which card to reveal, and it isn't random. It is not your choice. It is their choice. And then hopefully you get to pluck an action from their hand. The benefit behind this card is obviously taking that action, but also making sure that you use this at a really specific point in the match. You can always turn 1, throw this out there, and try to hopefully nab an action from your opponent's hands really early on in the game. Or you can wait until a very pivotal moment in the game when you feel like they're holding onto something, and then this might be the right play to strip them of that card. And then finally we have Razor Claw, who in his bot mode does have Bold, which is really nice. And then if you flip over into this other mode, you get to attack untapped characters as though they were tapped, just like the super rare Bumblebee from Wave 1. Now again, what I usually try to do if I am going first is it's really nice to throw Taurox out there to try to hit that untapped character that I'm really trying to target really early on and get some early damage on, and then possibly have Razor Claw finish that character off if they choose to not attack with it, or if they feed him to you, then you have plenty of other characters to go at you first, leaving Razor Claw behind. He's definitely one of your better characters, so you're going to want to probably try to throw him in when you absolutely need to. The other thing about this deck is that I treat it a lot like the Insecticon list as far as you want to be flipping a character every single turn that that character attacks. The only one that I can caution you on is going to be using Headstrong. Now, if you're throwing Headstrong out there later on just because you want the Brave, or even throwing him second to make your opponents go after Headstrong, it is okay to flip him once he hits the KO area because you can do that with Wave 2's new rules. So it's never a bad thing to leave him in that Brave mode. However, pretty much everybody else that you're going to be going up against, when you do go to plan your attack for that turn, I do tend to flip that character, or at least flip that character and attack with someone else and then remember to later on. But you always want to have them in their bot mode because obviously our goal is going to be able to get to Predaking as fast as possible and also dealing as much damage along the way. Now the thing that we're going to be doing with this deck, which is hopefully very obvious, is going to be a very weapon-heavy build. Now the one thing we do know about Predaking the most is that he can have 5 weapon slots. That means that when you do combine, you get to carry over as many weapons that you do have on some of your current characters. So you want to play as many weapons as you can and as many upgrades as you can. Now we're going to start off by showing the weapons that we have first, and the first 3 coming in are going to be erratic lightning. Now the best part about erratic lightning, besides being an orange battle icon, is it does give us +3 attack, which is really huge and really beneficial. Now there is a drawback to erratic lightning in that it is that -1 armor. However, if you look at some characters that the Predacons do have, they have 0 armor or have 1 armor, so you're not really losing a whole lot of armor, seeing as how these guys already have low armor. Now, if you are playing it on such a thing as Headstrong, leaving him in that Brave area, he's going to be one of your better targets because that only takes him down to 2 armor, still leaving him with a bunch of armor. But going for someone like on Dive Bomb, who already has 0, you're not losing any, but you are gaining that +3 attack, which is really nice. The next 3 we have coming in here are going to be Power Punch. Power Punch is an orange battle icon as well, and it does give bolt 3 till end of turn as obviously a weapon, which is fantastic. But the one thing that I really want to talk about when it comes to weapons, just in general, is how good they truly are. The reason that I tend to lean more towards weapons than armor is because once you play a weapon, you will immediately get the benefit from it, seeing as how your opponent can't react to it on your turn. When it comes to an armor, you have to play an armor and then hope that you get to use that armor when it comes back to your opponent's turn. But with weapons, even if your opponent is holding something such as a ramming speed, something like Power Punch is going to already do its damage, and then it's going to go away at the end of combat, and their ramming speeds are really going to do absolutely nothing, which is going to be really nice. Even Erratic Lightning, if they happen to break it off of something like that, or Vaporize, or whatever the case may be, you're still getting that +3 damage when it comes down, so none of these cards are ever going to be dead cards. The next 3 coming in is going to be a big one, and that is Mining Pick. Mining Pick being an orange battle icon. It is a weapon, gives you +1, and then when the upgraded character attacks, you get to plan 2. Now the one thing about planning is that it is optional. It's optional to do 1, it's optional to do 2, you can do 0, so however it works. However, with Mining Pick, for every 1 card that you do plan and put on top, the upgraded character gets +1 additional attack. Now we're going to be going over a couple of double orange battle icon cards that we're going to be trying to plan specifically, but even putting something else on top of the deck like a white battle icon might be the right play sometime. Giving it a +1 and then being able to flip 2 more additional cards when it comes to attacking is going to be really nice. Again, it's a weapon. This card is super, super awesome. The next weapon we have coming in as a 3 is going to be Flamethrower. This is an old one, but always a good one. Orange battle icon, and does give us that bolt 2, flipping 2 more when it comes to attacking. The next one we have coming in as a 3 is going to be Grenade Launcher. Definitely can't build a weapon deck without Grenade Launcher. Orange battle icon, +4 attack, and again, after the upgraded character attacks, then this goes away, which really gets around all that hate or threats that your opponent is going to have. This thing does its damage and gets out of the way. The next 3 coming in is going to be Improvised Shield. Improvised Shield was primarily in there because it is a double orange battle icon card. We will definitely never be playing it. Tough 1 serves us absolutely 0 purpose on the deck, but it is there for a setup card. Again, to go with things such as Mining Pick and a couple others that we're going to get into here in just a minute, but this card is extremely important and really good card for the deck. The next one is going to be a 2 of Tooth and Claw. Now that is a new card introduced into Wave 2 as a couple of these other ones, but these ones are specifically designed for the Predacon, so of course they've got to make it into the list. Now it says put on Predacons only, which obviously it's all we're running. It says the upgraded character can have a weapon or armor in its armor slot, meaning essentially you can have 2 weapons on a character as long as this is on them as well. Now the other benefit behind this being an orange battle icon is it also does give +1. Now we will be playing multiple upgrades in a turn, hopefully most of the time with a couple other cards that we'll get to here in just a minute. So this card is a really nice to have to be able to put such as, 2 grenade launchers on a character, or even do a setup where you're putting flamethrower and grenade launcher on a character. So it's going to be dealing tons and tons of damage, and this is going to be a really nice card to help us get all of that damage put out. And the last upgrade coming in at 3 is going to be Datapad. Now primarily Datapad is in there because it is a white battle icon. It is an upgrade which makes a huge difference we'll get to later on. And then finally it says when the upgraded character attacks, you get to draw a card, giving you 1 extra card to see, and then it allows you to put 1 card on top of your deck. Again, trying to go for things such as the double orange battle icons to really maximize our damage. Alrighty, now getting into the upgrades, the first thing that we're going to be showing off is going to be Swindled. Swindled is an orange battle icon card. It is an action, and it says draw 2 cards and then scrap 2 cards. It's awesome because it allows you to dig through a couple looking for very specific cards, chuck in a couple that you don't really need, If you really have to, there's a couple of double orange cards that you guys can get rid of if you don't have a way to plan them back on the top. They're going to be great fodder for those to get out of your hand and get back into your deck. But the other great thing about this card is it says if you began the game with only Decepticons, which obviously we did, you get to play an additional upgrade. Now, it doesn't say you get to play an additional upgrade, but it lets you play one off of this, and then you get to play one for your turn like normal, basically even out to playing 2 upgrades in a turn, really being able to get a bunch of weapons out like we talked about, or even using that Tooth and Claw to put 2 weapons onto one character. The next couple of ways that we're going to use to get upgrades out on a turn as well is going to be new designs, orange battle icon, and then this says that you may play an upgrade, again allowing us to play multiple upgrades on the turn. We really want to try to have as many upgrades out as we can to do as much damage as we can, and then when we convert over to Predaking, making sure we carry as much of those over so we can really put the hurt. Next one coming in as a 3 of is going to be Peace Through Tyranny. Now, Peace Through Tyranny will never be using for its ability, seeing as how all of our characters are 5 stars, but Peace Through Tyranny is a double orange battle icon. Now, again, we talked about if you need to have fodder for Swindled, or if you need a card to plan with later on, this is going to be your big one. Plus, dealing 2 is never a bad thing. Next card coming in at 3 of is going to be Treasure Hunt. Now, Treasure Hunt is awesome, and it is really, really good in this deck. It is an orange battle icon, and it says you get to scrap the top 4 cards of your deck, put all upgrades into your hand. Now, you guys did previously see we have a crazy amount of upgrades in the deck. This thing will always be netting at least 2 or 3 cards. I've even hit it 4 a few times, which is really awesome because it really helps reload your hand to keep going with more of these cards to really keep applying a lot of that pressure to your opponent. The next card coming in as a 3 of is going to be Ramming Speed. Now, Ramming Speed is just a really awesome card. If you're not familiar with it, it is an orange battle icon and it just gets to scrap an enemy upgrade. This thing is going to primarily be used to get anything annoying out of your way for your opponent. You're primarily going to be trying to hit armor if your opponent does have armor, just to make sure that you're maximizing how much damage you can possibly do. But just in case there's something really annoying as far as even a weapon goes or a utility on your opponent's side, this is always going to be your target, and you want to definitely always be keeping one of these in your back pocket just to help slow down your opponent when they try to get in your way. Now the last card coming in as a 1 of is going to be Steamroll. Steamroll is one of 3 cards that don't have an orange in the deck, but we have a bunch of double oranges to really make up that difference. But what this card does is essentially gives our character trample till end of turn. Now if you're not aware of what that is, essentially is if your opponent has a character that has 1 HP left, and you know that you're going to attack for, let's say, 10 for that turn, then instead of just overkilling that character, all of that remaining damage that does KO that character, your opponent has to put onto a separate character. So sometimes you'll be able to use this early game to really knock out that character and maybe take a second character with it, or primarily what I do with it is hold on to it until I combine it to make Predaking, and then that is when I play the card, and then you get to really KO a character, and then possibly even KO a second character. Now, I will say that I've gotten Predaking to do 27 damage in 1 attack. It is definitely possible to get really high numbers to make sure you guys can kill a couple of characters, and this just makes sure that when you do combine, you're not, dealing 26 damage to a character that only has 3 or 4, and you're really wasting the combined. This is going to make sure that you're really doing all of that maximum damage. And the last card coming in as a 2 of is obviously going to be the Enigma. The Enigma does have that green battle icon, so if you do happen to flip it early game, it's really easy to chuck a card from your hand out to be able to pull this Enigma into your hand. Now, I have tried running 3. I think 3 is too many, and 1 is definitely too few. 2 is, for me, is a really, really good number, and even having multiples in your hand is really nice. Now the cool part about this is that Predaking does say that on the turn that he is combined, you get to draw a card and then play a card. So even if you happen to have 2 of these, they're really nice because when you play this card and you have Predaking on the battlefield, it says you get to draw a card and then you may play an upgrade. So you're still going to be able to churn through a bunch of cards. Even if you happen to have both of these, that is definitely not a bad thing to have. And then this is obviously going to be able to get out your Predaking by making sure all of your characters are in bot mode for this to be able to go off. Now we talked about it earlier in the video, the character interactions and how that really depends on what kind of situations you guys are in based on what kind of deck you're going up against. But I wanted to show off some of the cards that you guys can put in instead. And the first card is going to be Rapid Conversion. It is a white battle icon card, meaning we get to flip 2 more cards when it comes to attacking, and then also it says you get to flip one of your characters to its other mode. Benefit behind that is obviously going to be able to get our characters to flip faster into all their bot modes so you guys can get to Predaking 1 turn sooner. Now, if you play 2, then it's 2 turns sooner, however it may work. However, the one thing to note about this card is that it is a little slow. I don't really ever see the need to be on a 4-turn clock to be able to get Predaking out. I'm sure there's definitely a lot of benefits to it, but again, It's, for me in my area, not really a huge issue getting it out turn 5 versus turn 4, but if you need to raise people in your local area, this could be a really good card. Now the next card coming in is going to be Zap. Zap as an orange battle icon gets to do 1 damage to an enemy. Now I'll tell you very specifically, this one pulls at me all the time. I always seem to find myself with a character that has 1 HP left, and it just can't really finish it out. That is why I did add Steamroll to the list, because usually in those situations I leave that character alone till later on, and then once I combine to make Predaking, always try to go for that character if possible, and then carry over an insane amount of damage. But if you're coming up against the point where it's really not working out for you and that character, those characters are always having 1 life, this is going to be a really nice addition to the deck. I will tell you that this is a really good card for Shrapnel specifically, because if your opponent does get to go first, then essentially you have to put 3 attacks into Shrapnel in order to kill him. However, if you do have Zap, then it will turn that down to 2 attacks and then the Zap to be able to finish him off as well, if you don't go with the Steamroll plan. The next card to possibly put in there is going to be Supercharge. Now Supercharge, again, orange battle icon, and it does give you bold 3, meaning that you get to flip 3 more cards when it comes to attacking, really maximizing how much damage you need to do. Again, I find myself never really needing this card. I feel like it definitely does more than enough damage early game to really get you to the late game, but if you are coming across a lot of armor in your area or a lot of health characters such as Cosmos, then this is going to be something really nice to help you get through more damage early game. And then the last one is going to be Bashing Shield. Now, Bashing Shield is really nice. Bashing Shield is an orange and a green battle icon, meaning that if you happen to flip it early game, then you can put a card from your hand and take this out of that area after battling, which is really nice, especially, again, if you're coming up against a lot of armor or if you're coming up against a lot of heavy defense stuff. This is going to be a really good card to nab up. Now, I don't really feel like I need it too often, seeing as how the 3 ramming speeds are in the list normally, but again, if you are going up against a bunch, this is really nice to have, plus it does give you +1 armor. So there you guys have it. There is the deck, there is how I run it, and these are all the different options that you guys do have available to you. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below if there's any changes that you guys would make. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next one.